We want to be part of the conversation, whether that conversation is negative or positive. That hate following and hate watching is something that we have all been guilty of at different times.
When somebody doesn't like something or someone, they seek out further reasons to justify why they don't like them. And so often someone will do something really great or amazing or make a really valid point or whatever. And it's very easy for you, if you already have your expectations of that person and your feelings and you don't like them, it's very easy to ignore the positive things of someone and just keep on searching for something that you don't like to say, yes, that's why I don't like them.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Life Uncut. I'm Laura.
I'm Brittany. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Why?
Well, because you came in quite angry about an exhaust fan or something.
No, I'm not angry. I have a question for you all, and I'm going to bring this as the hard-hitting stuff straight off the back. Exhaust fans.
It's straight off the bat, not straight off the back.
It's bat.
Like
Did I
a
say
bat.
back? Fuck! Did I say the wrong thing?
It's so funny because yesterday we were talking about
Nip it in the butt.
sayings that you do wrong. It's straight off the bat, not the back. Like who are you taking it off someone's back?
But why is it bat? Like, who has a bat?
Because it's straight off.
Cricketers?
Yes.
Yeah, like a T-ball.
Yeah, straight
Baseball.
off the cricket bat.
Straight off the bat. Yeah, well, look, if anyone's carrying a heavy load, I'm going to take it straight off your back as well. I don't know if I have like an irrational hatred towards exhaust fans or if this is something that other people experience to the same level.
Right.
And I never realized this until my beautiful mother-in-law Ellie moved in with us, because she seems to be totally immune to them. So she leaves bathroom exhaust fans on, the exhaust fan over the oven on, and it's on all day. And I get home and I feel like I've walked into a war. Like I instantly feel the rising anxiety because I'm like, oh.
Bit of an exaggeration. But
No, I'm not. I'm not exaggerating. And I realized yesterday, I was like sitting at the desk trying to work, and then I had this moment where I was like, why do I feel so angry? Why do I feel so confused? And I walked over and I turned the exhaust fan off, and it was like it was like the sun came out and the clouds had lifted and I could think again. Am I the only person who has this?
She's still undiagnosed ADHD, isn't
Fuck
she?
off.
The reason I'm laughing so much is because there is not one single thing in my house that causes more conflict than the exhaust fan in the shower or the kitchen. It's the shower more because it's used more frequently.
Look, the shower's a necessary one because of mold. I get it. Matt turns
I'd
it
rather
on. I
mold.
hate it. I
I'd
know.
rather it.
But
No, you wouldn't.
The oven, I don't understand. I cannot handle the sound, and it drives me insane, and it's like infiltrated my dreams now. I don't feel safe in my own home because of the exhaust fans.
The rage that can come from an exhaust fan, I'm not joking, it feels as though there's someone standing on either side of my ears going
Into my head.
and I'm like getting angrier and angrier and angrier, and you cannot make it stop
Can't.
until
You
the
turn it
sound
off.
stops.
But I like that you sympathise with
like,
this, and Brittany doesn't care.
So
I
deeply.
Well, no. I mean, do I love the sound of like in my ears? No. Does it bother me? No. Does my exhaust fan in my kitchen work? No. I can't put it on. It's broken. It doesn't work.
Britt's house is so peaceful.
It is because everything's broken. I can't even light my oven anymore. Everything's breaking. It's just an old house.
Well, if you want to feel alive, just come over to my house because Ellie's got every single one on full force.
your house does give me wild anxiety.
Oh, mate, please.
It's a lot. There's a lot going on. You walk in, there's a lot of noise, a lot of exhaust fans, a lot of kids, a lot of dogs, there's a cat. It's from someone that lives alone and who has a broken exhaust fan. When I walk into your house, is a lot going on.
It really, yeah. I mean, your existence in terms of like the peace and quiet that you have
is peaceful.
Yeah, it is quiet. It's a different existence. When you walk into my house, like, you know you're alive.
You get assaulted the second you walk in.
Everything is going at full throttle.
Full throttle.
I quit.
There's a lot of
I
stimulation.
quit.
I quit
It's
last
been
week.
a really good 5.5 years. I've had a really fun time on this podcast, but I'm done, guys. I can't speak anymore. I can't think because I have an exhaust fan in my head.
Speaking of quitting, I would just like to say
Please don't make this your opportunity. Don't take this as your time.
no, because I tried to quit when you guys came for me for my snort. You guys really doubled down this week on my snort issues that you have a problem with. Didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming. It did take me by surprise. I was shocked. I was
We
horrified.
staged a coup against Brittany and her snort.
It was a life uncut coup. What I will say is you doubled down and put it on social media. You went for the votes. And it didn't quite
interesting
turn
tactic,
out how
Keish.
you thought it would because everybody was pro snort.
There was only 35 comments. I don't think people felt as passionately as what you might think.
I also got
How many of the
personal
30
DMs.
How many? 35? So did I, actually.
Do you know what I reckon? The Venn diagram of people who hate exhaust fans and also hate snorts is probably a complete circle.
No, my DMs were flooded with support. Flooded, overflowing.
To every single person who has supported Britt and the snorts,
Thank you.
we are going to approach the podcast in a different way for the next month. We're not going to edit out a single snort, not one single one.
I'm not scared.
And then I would love to know how we all feel about it because it's been a journey.
Okay, let's do it.
I would like to read a message that we got to Life Uncut DMs. I actually stopped listening to a certain very popular podcast because I couldn't handle the snorting in my ears. So thank you, Keeshia, for editing so I don't have to abandon this one too.
That's
I'm
right.
keeping the listeners.
Britt's like, it's time for you to leave.
She didn't abandon our podcast. She's still listening. So our snort
Because
wasn't
I
as
edit
bad.
them out.
Leave them in, see what happens.
We will lose them.
I genuinely don't care. I am not going to change who I am at my core. And the people have spoken. 35 people.
35 people.
Actually, it's more than that. I'm checking.
35 of our 1 million listeners per month have spoken. Yeah.
Yesterday I get a message from Keeshia and she said,
It's 35, yeah.
I think some of those comments
One
are
of
me
them's
as well.
my dad. He commented twice.
The camp is divided. There's people who hate exhaust fans and there's people who love them.
Stop
and like you said,
triangulating.
it's all right, let's move on. Britt, you have some updates. Okay, last week we spoke quite a bit about your hens party. We spoke about the potential of having a very famous stripper there to give you a complimentary and maybe me one as well, lap dance. But there's been some updates on this.
I do have an update.
So Will Parfitt is his name. Also,
It's not parfait. He's not a dessert. Stop
He is a
calling
dessert.
him. I mean, he's a dessert to many people. Stop calling him real parfait. Will croissant. I think it's Parfitt.
Oh, no one knows, but it's
No, I
look,
think people do know. It's
he
not
doesn't even know. It does look like parfait.
He's also not French.
P-A-R-F-A-I-T. Parfait.
No, it's Parfitt.
Parfait.
Yeah, it's not parfait.
Oh, parfait sounds better.
Will Parfait does sound better, but I don't think we can just change his name.
All right. Well, look, Will, who is clearly a snack, he's like from the down under, the strippers. What are they called?
Magic Mike.
Magic Mike strippers. He's very famous. He looks exactly like Channing Tatum. We got into a big discussion about it on the last podcast episode. And we
Yeah.
really established that if we're going to have a stripper at Britt's Hens, this is the man that it has to be.
I said Channing 2.0 or not, nothing. Like it was him.
I believe your words were fake Channing Tatum.
Yeah, it was fake Channing Tatum or nothing.
Well, Britt, we do have some devastating news for you.
He's in Argentina performing, isn't he?
He is.
I knew it. I know his schedule.
He's on a world tour at the same time that your hens is happening, but we do have a message from him.
Hey, Brits.
Britt's cute.
Oh, my God. This is going to get me in trouble. But
Why?
no, I just wanted to say congratulations on your hens night.
He sounds hot.
I wish I could be there to give you a lap dance, but unfortunately, I'm on my world tour, so I'm going to be in Scandinavia when your hens party is. But I will save the lap dance for you for another time if your husband-to-be allows me to
He will absolutely
give you
not.
that lap dance. But have an amazing hens night, and I will hopefully see you soon.
Such a personal message. He called me Brits.
Which
With an
makes
S.
me think he doesn't know what your name is.
Why are you blushing?
No, because only people really close to me call me Brits. It's actually something that you guys don't know because you're not that close to me. You've never called me.
I think, though, that this means that we've got to go back to the drawing board. I know you said you don't want anyone else, but
No.
there's other people out there. There are, Britt.
There's not.
There is going to be someone else who
No,
may be a good enough substitute. So we will find.
There's not. I don't want to be stripped on by anyone other than Channing Tatum 2.0. I don't want it. I just feel like I've been broken up with Will Parfait.
I feel so confused about this whole thing because when you initially kind of spoke with me about it, privately, I thought you didn't want to have one at your hens. And then on the podcast, I found out that you absolutely did. So I kind of was like chasing my tail being like, oh, Will, shit, misread the room. Would you like for me to ask when he's going to be
I
in
don't want
Sydney
you to
next?
strip, no.
And, and maybe he can come and visit us here at work.
No!
That was weird.
Why would I want to? Guys, just on for the record, I don't want a private lap dance from Will
Very
Parfait.
confused if you do or don't.
To be fair, you are giving mixed signals.
No, I have never.
Thank you, Laura.
I have been bullshit. I have been very clear on this podcast from the get-go. I don't want a stripper. If I did, it would be the Magic Mike guy. That's it. Never has there been any inkling of saying, hey, if he's not available, just see if he can come into work. Like the fact that you guys think that this is mixed signals, you're gaslighting me now. This is gaslighting.
I just don't know how much you wanted it. Like how much it was on your bucket list.
Spoiler.
I'm just trying to please you.
Keisha's like, I actually gave him your address. And I said that the exhaust fan's not working. If you could go and fix it like a maintenance guy.
Yeah, wear
then you
your
could-
tool belt. That sounds good.
That actually would be hot.
Maybe he needs to go to Laura's house. In all seriousness, it's disappointing. I'm disappointed for you guys that you don't get your lap dance from Will. I was worried. He's very popular. I did see his schedule that he was on a world tour, so I didn't think it was going to be able to happen. So I did brace myself for the disappointment, to which I do feel.
We are going to go back to the drawing board and we will find a adequate substitute because the lifers deserve this content.
No, I'm not
Brittany,
being
we
stripped
deserve
on.
this.
I'm not being stripped on by anyone else.
All right. Well, speaking of hens parties, I know you also have an update on Bucks parties because you mentioned that Ben had his on the weekend. The last time we talked about it, it was happening, but now it has happened.
Oh, yeah.
How did that all unfold?
Yeah, far more wholesome. It was, I mean, there are some things that Ben has said, like, what's it? What happens in Fight Club stays in Fight Club. There's some things I'm not allowed to speak about.
It's that the first rule of Fight Club is that you don't speak about Fight Club.
Yeah, so what happens in Fight Club stays
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
What
is
happens
the phrase.
in Vegas?
Look,
Fight
Straight
Club.
off the back.
Yeah, straight off the back, he said, what happens in Vegas strip club stays there. So we were speaking at the last hurrah. Like he'd met up with his friends. He'd driven to Milan. They went to Milan, which is really cool. And there are really amazing clubs there. And I just said to him, hey, this is the last goodbye. I'm giving you a free pass. I'm not going to speak to you. I'm not going to bother you. I want you to go and have fun. Like the free pass, to be specific, means you don't feel like you have to contact me. If you want to go to a strip club, you can, as long as there's no like touching. Like he knew the rules. He sent me a countdown timer in the calendar that was counting down for like 30 hours or something. He's like, see you in 30 hours. Speaking to Sherry at the same time because Jay's on the Bucks as well. And I was like, oh God, this is going to get crazy, isn't it? And she was like, probably. 5 minutes later, I get a message from Ben and he's sending me photos of his food. They're at lunch. And I'm like, oh, cute. That looks nice. And there's a photo of all the boys sitting around at this restaurant. This is how they're kickstarting. They're drinking wine. They've got rosé. I was like, what is happening? It looked like a girl's bottomless brunch. Like it was like really, they were all on the rosé and stuff.
They're in Italy. Of course they're having a winey
Yeah, but it's
lunch.
a Bucks party. This is your last
What do you think
hurrah.
they're doing? Heroin? Like, of course they're going to start on the
I
wine.
thought well, I don't know. I've never been to a Bucks, but I thought they all got loose. I thought they were doing shots and they party hard.
Yeah, but you don't go from like texting your girlfriend goodbye to doing like fireballs within 5 minutes, do you? I don't know. You got to warm up into that stuff.
Anyway, this continues to go on. I continue to get probably 4 separate calls throughout the night from Ben and his friends. I was like, guys, stop contacting me. I was like, go and have fun. They were like, hey, just checking in. Woo, this is what we're doing. And I was like, the fact that you guys are partying and thinking that you need to contact me, I was like, I'm cute. Ben, I appreciate it. Anyway, I messaged Sherry and I was like, do you think that they're like off their chops right now? I haven't heard from them in a while. And she's like, no, I think it's pretty safe. The last thing I heard from Jay was a picture saying, hey, in pastry heaven. And they were taking photos at a bakery. It was just so wholesome. The only thing was Ben was saying that he saw Jay outside this club and he was talking to this really hot smoke show girl. So there's a club apparently in Milan that is for a lot of the footballers to go to, like, because there's a big football clubs in Italy, like AC Milan and all these huge ones. Anyway, it's this club where it's like there's side access, you get scurried in, it's very private, you can do whatever you want in there. No one knows, there's no photos, whatever. And it's where all these really hot smoke show chicks go as well because they want to go and hook up with people. So Ben said he was looking over and he was like, what the fuck? And Jay was in the corner talking to this Italian girl because she thought he was a footballer. Anyway, Ben's like, this can't be right. I'm going to go and do the brother-in-law thing and I'm going to go and see what the fuck's going on because they were talking for quite a while. And it looked like they might have been swapping numbers because their phone was out. So Ben walks.
Which is just not Jay.
So Ben walks over because they're all drinking. Ben walks over to be like, what the hell's going on? Looks down and Jay's just like deep in the Maya album, just showing this hot smoke show chick, his daughter. He's saying his 8-month-old daughter. And the girl's like, He's like, and this is her. This was her in the bath last night. And this is when she tried food for the first time. Ben was like, I had this moment where I was like, surely they're not swapping numbers because why else would you have your phone out? And Jay was just showing albums and
Baby photos.
yeah, we just had this realization, Sherry and I, where we're like, we have nothing to worry about.
But also the reason why you have nothing to worry about is because of having someone who does respect you enough to give you like the constant contact points. You know what I mean? Like
it was
it's
wonderful.
it's the consistency, right? That's where it comes from. Because if you were with someone who often just didn't reply or like kind of went cold and then popped back up again, you would feel insecure and unsure about what they were doing on their bucks party. But because you have someone who's consistent in their behavior, you don't feel crazy. There's so many people who will relate, but there's also so many people who would have had very different bucks experiences to this.
And I think it's also like I laugh and say go crazy and enjoy yourself. There might be people saying why are you pushing him to go and have such a loose night? And it's because he never does. His whole life as an athlete, they don't drink, they don't party, they don't do anything because they're not allowed. They never get 2 days off in a row. Like footballers don't get 2 days off in a row for that exact reason that their teams know that they could go and party, then it's disastrous. So I was like, I actually want you to go and have fun. But it comes down to two, I think. Like I was talking to Ben about it and he's like, babe, maybe 10 years ago to be different. He's like, but we're all in our 30s now. Like we're a bit older and not that 30s is old, but I think of the way that we go out now in our 30s. You don't go out
different.
You don't go out the same way. You don't want to do the same things. And I was like, was there no part of you that wanted to go to a strip club? Because obviously strip clubs are something that are synonymous with bucks parties and hens parties, as we know. And he was like, no. He's like, it's such a cliche to think that men want to go to strip clubs on their bucks. He's like, most people don't actually want to go there. It's just something that they've always thought that they had to do. They just had more fun sitting in a booth, giggling with each other, drinking rosé.
It's also like, I mean, we have spoken about it a bit, but it's also like the lowest form of organization. It's like the easiest route of creativity of like, well, what are we going to do? Okay, I guess we're going to do ABC on this bucks night. I definitely think age stage has an impact, although different people hit age stages at different times. I don't think a number is necessarily indicative of how they feel around partying or anything else. Like we all know the Peter Pans who are in their 30s or their 40s and they're still partying just as much as they did in their 20s. But I definitely think we do move and gravitate through these life stages, but some people just do it faster than others.
I also wonder how much it comes to the whole idea of like forbidden fruit. As in, if you are the type of person who was really quite controlling of your partner and you're like, this is what you're allowed to do, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, you're not allowed to do this. I wonder whether for most people there would be an element of like, no, it's my bucks party and I get to do whatever I want. So I do actually want to go and do those things. And this is the one night you're not allowed to have an opinion on it. And like, yeah, that's not healthy, but I actually think it could potentially be true. I think that in certain circumstances like that, and again, it's going to be dependent on what the person is like as well and how much they respect their partner. But I think sometimes giving that little bit of like lack on a leash.
It's reverse psychology.
Yeah,
I told him you could do anything. He's like, oh.
Exactly. It takes away that buzz of being like, I'm being rebellious, you know?
Here's a scenario for you. What would you do in this? And this probably could be an Ask Uncut question, but this is something that happened to a friend of mine quite a long time ago. So her husband went on their bucks night, great relationship, never any cheating, never any suspicion of cheating, I guess, prior to that. Husband or fiance went on a bucks night, came home, and she found a receipt for a brothel in his pocket. And she called the brothel to find out what services you could receive for the amount of money that was paid, and it was full services. What would you do? Yep. And after confronting him, he admitted, yep, we went to a brothel for like last chance, last hurrah kind of thing before being married.
Was it his bucks party and he was
his
the one?
bucks party and he was the groom?
I don't think I could marry that person, but obviously it's situational. There would be people that would be fine. I think I'd at least have to postpone
I don't think
the wedding.
anyone would be fine.
But there are definitely people, this could go two ways. There are definitely people that are like, because bucks parties and hens parties happen usually quite close to a wedding. So there are people that would be like,
I can't cancel.
we can't cancel the wedding now with the people that are flying in and booked and the money. So like, let's deal with this later. There'd be people that are like, this is way too hard basket to pull the pin, and they feel the guilt of pulling the pin for everyone else involved and everyone else it would affect that would sit in that. And I would feel the same. There'd be every part of me that would be like, how do I pull the pin on this? Especially for me, if it's an international wedding when people have Like, imagine all of your guests that have booked flights somewhere and you are pulling the pin on that for them. So I'd almost think, fuck, do I just go through with it and try and sort this out later? Much like the honey badger should have done on my season of The Bachelor.
Because that's the same.
Yeah, but he should have just committed to it and pulled the pin later. But it's really hard. Like, for me, there is no excuse in the books to cheat on your bucks because it's your last hurrah. There is not one thing that you could tell me in that situation that would make that okay.
Yeah, I think if I was in that situation, the thing that I know that I might be a bit unique in this way, if I was to compare them hooking up with someone that they had just met, let's use the example of the smoke show that Jay was talking to, or a sex worker, I would much prefer the sex worker because it's an actual transaction. It's a physical connection. There's not an emotional tie there. And if I was presented with those two options, which I know neither of them are desirable, but I would actually prefer it to be, I would be able to get over a sex worker more than I would be able to get over like an emotional affair.
I think it would for me, and I mean, I've thought about this a lot over the years. I think for me, it would really raise questions around how misogynistic my partner was. This idea that they were entitled to one last dip in the pond or whatever, however you want to describe it, prior to, do you know what I mean?
I don't think anyone's ever described it as a dip in the pond.
Just imagine.
But, you know, like one last chance with someone else before committing, and like that was an almost like a right or an entitlement that they had, and that they shouldn't feel remorseful or regretful. Like it was a planned thing. And also the fact that their friends around them facilitated it and were collaborating in the lie against me. I think I would really struggle to trust all of the people that I had brought into my network, not just my future husband.
Yeah, for me it's gross, and it's not gross
Obviously,
because it's a sex worker.
So bad.
It's gross just because it's cheating
Totally.
a week before you get married. But I don't know if I agree with you. I know what you're saying, Keish, but I don't think I agree with it because almost in a different way, if it was a random in the club that just happened, that almost seems different to me than being so premeditated to be like, let's Google where a brothel is. Let's get the Uber to the brothel. Let's engage in it. And it's not something where it's like, oh my God, it was a mistake. It was an accident. It just happened. It's almost like, I don't know if it's worse, not because of the sex worker side, because it's just planned and premeditated.
I think every version of it is terrible, completely terrible. And I really do question like proximity to wedding would definitely have an impact, like you said, Britt, on how you would navigate that. Because I think most people would want space to really process how do you feel about something that's just happened. But when you have a looming deadline of a wedding that's happening, you don't really have that space and time to process. You've got to make a decision.
What I can say is, like, we make all these jokes aside, it is, and I could cry, but it is so amazing to be with someone finally in my life that I completely trust. And like, I mean, we're so far away. We see each other every couple of months. It is the perfect recipe for infidelity on both of our sides if we wanted to. And not once since the day I met him and since he met me as well, have either of us ever had an issue or questioned or even thought about it. There is not 1% of me that has to worry about one thing in my life with Ben at all. And it is such an amazing feeling to have like that partner in my life. So as much as we joke about it, it's like, fuck, it took me so long to find. And I do want to just like put that hope out there to people because I get this message all the time. I'm 37. I'm like, it's taken me a long time to meet my person. And there's always people messaging me saying like, oh, I'm in my 30s. I've just turned 30 and I'm never going to meet someone. I do just want to say, make sure you don't settle for something at any point of your life because age is just a number and it doesn't matter when you meet your person because this feeling for me, I would have waited another 10 years to have.
It's a really different thing when you go from being in relationships where the expectation is that cheating is not normal and accepted, but that it happens and it's something that you should just almost get over if it does happen. Like,
or that you have to worry about, like it's normal to want to check their phone. Like,
yeah, and I completely can empathize with that feeling, Britt. And like it makes me so happy that you are in that place because I think anyone who looks from an outset, or not anyone, that's not fair assessment, but a lot of people would be like, professional sports person, lives in another country, like how do you have trust? And I think that is a real reflection on the relationships that they have had because that would have been my impression prior to being with someone like Matt. I used to think that cheating was an inevitable part of every relationship, that whether you thought it or didn't think it or you knew about it or you didn't know about it, it would happen. And it's just how you navigate it when it does happen. I thought it was a given.
Yeah. And also talk about not judging a book by its cover. Fuck, I got that wrong. I only hooked up with Ben because I thought he was going to be a player and like a wanker and like, get down and dirty. And it's so far from the truth. The guy's at home every night watching cooking videos. He's the most
Meghan Markle.
He's Meghan Markle. Yes, he probably has watched it. So anyway, that's my update. That's my wholesome update.
As I'm sure all of you are aware by now, Meghan Markle, she has just brought out her new Netflix doco, which is called With Love, Meghan. If you haven't seen it yet, you probably will because it's doing very well on Netflix. It's like number 7 at the moment. Like it's very well watched and very well watched, terribly received, which is never the criticism that you want to receive for your own show. But it is kind of a hybrid, I guess, between being slightly trad wife, a home cooking show, and like how to entertain friends and guests. I would kind of almost liken it to who's a really famous
Martha
Stewart, except with less sass. Like a very perfectly presented Martha Stewart. There's 8 episodes. They've actually renewed it for a second season now after the first few episodes coming out and the response within the first week. However, it's only received 28% score on Rotten Tomatoes. It has received some truly horrific headlines. I want to read out a couple of them to you because honestly, like the headlines around this series makes you question how it could possibly be so popular. Headlines like Exercise in Narcissism reviews savage Meghan Markle's Netflix reality TV. Rolling Stones. Meghan Markle is just a girl standing in front of her fans asking them to love her. With Love, Meghan review smug, syrupy and endlessly spoofable. The question that we had, and I mean, we've all watched episodes from it now, and we have similar but also slightly different views on this, is why is it that we hate watch or why is it that we hate follow content that we know that it's not necessarily enjoyable or we know that we're not getting something out of it, but we still can't turn it off or can't turn away? We want to be part of the conversation, whether that conversation is negative or positive, that hate following and hate watching is something that we have all been guilty of at different times.
Yeah, and we're going to unpack the hate following. But before we do that, I do want to unpack the show a little bit. I hate how much hate Meghan Markle gets. Like I've always felt really sorry for her. That doesn't mean I agree with everything or I like her, but I just don't think she deserves the pile-on that she has received over the last, I think, 10 years? I'm not sure how long she's been with Prince Harry now, but she has been the most hated, trolled and bullied person in the world at one stage. And I do feel like she's gotten herself into a position now where she can't really do anything without getting criticism. I want to read an excerpt from an article that I read from something called The Gulf News, and I want to read it because it's sort of how I felt. When I read it, I was like, this is exactly how I felt going into this. The article opens with, when I began watching the Meghan Markle-led lifestyle show, I took a solemn oath to fly in with an open mind and leave any prejudices that I may harbour against her by the door of her Montecito mansion, one she doesn't live in.
Does she not live in that mansion?
No, that's the thing. First thing she said in the show.
But she lives in Montecito, but she doesn't live in that specific. So where are the bees? Are they not in her backyard?
Well, it's actually...
Where are the blueberries or the blackberries that she's been harvesting? Are they not hers?
No.
Apparently the garden scene, like the garden is actually hers. In
Oh,
her
but
own
not the big
home.
cooking bench top.
Not the kitchen,
Got ya.
yeah.
Yeah, fair.
And some
Yeah.
people kicked off about that, but apparently there's not a single celebrity chef or anything in the world that films in their actual own kitchen.
Of course, it's not her house. That doesn't bother me at all. Like, she's never going to bring, when she has stalkers and haters, she's never going to say, hey, here's the floor plan of my house. Like, that's normal. So I don't have any problem with that. So
But how does she know where the cups are and the plates are?
And she knows exactly what is in every jar, even though it's not labelled.
Because it's her fake house. In the first few shots where she's enjoying bee farming reminded me of a recent documentary chronicling David Beckham's life. What's with wealthy people and raising bees in their backyard with the help of a professional?
That's a fair point. What is with that?
I don't know. She goes on to say, listen, you can catch flies or fans with honey, but what exactly is the goal here? Every scene in the first episode felt contrived and orchestrated to showcase how lovely, amiable and down-to-earth Meghan is. Now, I really, really, really wanted to go in and love this. I did. I went in with completely like open heart, open arms, open ideas, open mind to just say, let's see what she can do. Like, I love that she's out there hustling, trying to work. She did get paid $100 million for it. So
Great hustle.
But what did I just watch? I felt like I was watching Play School. I felt like, and I don't want to say that in a mean way, but I know it comes across mean, but the way she was speaking to her guests and almost like explaining down to them how to do some of the most basic things. I didn't understand that concept. Like in the second episode with Mindy, she was explaining how to cut little sandwiches for a kid's party. Mindy's a mum. She's a grown woman. She's an educated woman. It was like, hey, this is how we're making ham and cheese sandwiches. Pick your favorite shape and we're going to cut the sandwich. And then like Mindy cuts the sandwich into a love heart. And she's like, oh, well done. Like I just felt like the content wasn't suitable for the people that were involved and for the audience. And I don't know who the content was for. I don't know if the content was for kids. I don't know if the content is for mums at home that would like to be better homemakers. I'm a bit confused at where the messaging was supposed to land.
Yeah, I feel similar to you in that I definitely went into it with an open mind and an open heart because I want to love Meghan. I really do. I don't have any prejudice against her. I think that the backlash she's received is so deeply unjust and there's many layers of it, which has been well documented over the last few years. The thing I was surprised about, and I agree with you, is that it is unfortunate how perfect she has to present.
Yeah.
And I do think that a reality TV platform probably isn't necessarily the right platform because we expect out of reality TV, we expect realness and we expect authenticity. And when we're being presented with perfection, it seems to be lacking of those two things. And even when you look at people like the Kardashians, for example, in some aspects of their life, they're perfect, but in other aspects of their life, they're very unfiltered and very real. And that's the reality TV that we kind of expect because we see it as being, you know, quote unquote, authentic. The issue with this show is that the level of perfection that is the constant thread throughout is so unachievable. It is so unrelatable. But I unfortunately think that that's the only type of content that Meghan can create. Because if she was anything but perfect, then from a royal perspective, she would be dragged as well. So she's kind of damned if she does and damned if she doesn't. I don't hate her for that. I found it sugary and I found it enjoyable in some ways because it was so easy to consume. I couldn't turn it off. I watched 2 episodes of it. And I also think like it would be very easy background fodder. The only thing I felt disappointed about is that I felt disappointed that she didn't have a bit more grit. Like I wanted her to have more personality that went beyond the perfection. I wanted to like her for her imperfections, but there weren't any. And so that makes her to me slightly unlikable because it seems unreal and it seems like there's almost this like glossy facade over the top of her and I can't quite see inside like, well, who is the real Meghan? The other part of that, I guess also is maybe, and it was actually really, I was talking to Matt about this. I think he made a really interesting point. When you're an actress and your entire career has been around playing personas, but then you step into playing the persona and maybe she is perfect, who knows, but I kind of think no one is. When you step into the persona of playing perfect, you look at it and even though it's a reality TV show, you think, oh, she's still playing a character. And so I think that that's where this level of detachment comes from with it. But I did find myself watching more of it, not hating it, but absolutely not enjoying it either.
I understand what Matt said, but I think it's a bit deeper than that. I don't think it's because she's an actress at all. I think it's because every step she has taken for the last 10 years has been so heavily criticized and bullied that she is so careful with what she does now and who she is and what she can say. She self-censors herself to the extreme. And I can only imagine that that is the byproduct any of us would experience when we've been trolled for literally everything we have done, said, looked, dressed. Every single thing of her being has been so heavily criticized that I imagine this is the byproduct. So I don't know if it's necessarily – most actors are so good at acting that they can peel away and be normal. They can be anyone. I don't think she's acting. I think she's genuinely made a conscious decision to say, I've signed a contract for our family to produce, 5 separate shows, allegedly, for $100 million. What can I put out so that I can meet my requirements with them and my contract, but also is going to safeguard me from literally being trolled for the rest of the world? And I think she has chosen the absolute quote unquote safest option for herself and for her family. And look, it's number 7 in America in the USA. So whether people are loving it or hating it, she's delivered for Netflix. She has done what she has said she was going to do. She did it in a way where if people are only hating her because she's not stepping a foot out of line and she's not boring, for her, she's probably like, wow, tick. Like if the hate is that I'm getting is people saying that I'm boring, she's probably okay with that.
I mean, if you've seen it, I would be interested, and please DM us. We'd love to know what your feelings and thoughts were around it. I would say that collectively we have a pretty switched on listenership who aren't watching things with the intention to then go and troll people online, right? Like that's
No.
I don't like this conversation isn't around like accusing anyone, but it certainly is a byproduct of this show. You know, Meghan has switched off all commentary. There's all commentary around this show has now been switched off online because of the absolute torrent of hate that was received. And the conversation we wanted to have off the back of this is something that I think a lot of us do. Maybe we do it not even realizing that it is something that we kind of are self-sabotaging ourselves in a way. But it's this idea of hate following or hate watching. And so many people have hate watched this show in order to join the dialogue around the negative commentary off the back of it. And it does make me question, okay, well, how's season 2 going to go of this? Because are people going to be as dialed into the hate watching for season 2 when it's just going to be more of the same thing? Or is it just because it's new, it's because it's Meghan, and it's because she's an easy target to kind of, you know, throw fury and hate towards? But what is it that makes us watch something that we don't like, or makes us follow someone on social media who we have disdain for, but we can't turn away from actually viewing the content?
Yeah, hate following is a really interesting thing because we do it on every single level. We do it to famous people. We do it to people in our lives. We do it to micro influencers that we follow on social media. I think it comes down to like a confirmation bias of when somebody doesn't like something or someone, they seek out further reasons to justify why they don't like them. And so often someone will do something really great or amazing or make a really valid point or whatever. And it's very easy for you, if you already have your expectations of that person and your feelings and you don't like them, it's very easy to ignore the positive things of someone and just keep on searching for something that you don't like to say, yes, that's why I don't like them. That's why I hate them. And I think a lot of people do that in the day-to-day, but I think a lot of people have done that with Meghan Markle, the confirmation bias. I've hated her for years. Let me just see if I can hate her some more or why. And they watch the show to try and say, yep, I knew it. I knew I hated her for a reason.
I think there's also a comparison aspect to this. I definitely am not someone who hate follows. I don't follow people actually and actively that I don't like. That doesn't mean I don't check in on people's content. And I guess the reason why I do that, it's a rare thing for me to care enough about someone's content or someone's profile that I dislike or I have a feeling of like jealousy or hatred for. Like, that's not something that I think at this stage in my life I care about or give a lot of energy to. But when I think about maybe in my 20s when I was more insecure, when I was definitely comparing myself more to people, I think I did do this type of comparison. And I think the hate following came from this feeling of like, I couldn't understand why they had maybe the things that I wanted to have when I didn't agree with the way they went about it or their belief systems. Or, if I saw something that I thought was reinforcing, like you say, this confirmation bias, reinforcing the ways or the reasons why I didn't like them, it made me feel a little bit better. So it is this self-fulfilling cycle where you're like, oh, I hate them. Yes, they might be successful. But then you look at their content again and you go, oh, okay, that's the reason why I hate them. And I wish other people could see the thing that I see about them. And it makes you kind of feel a little bit superior in that moment. I would wonder, and I would love us to do a poll just so that we can kind of gauge what our audience is like. How many of you, when you think about it, do check in on the content of people that you don't like and, quote unquote, hate follow? Is it mostly celebrities? Is it mostly influencers? Is it people in your normal life? Is it, like you said, Britt, micro influencers? I would say personally, it was never people in my direct or own life. It was always people who had a life that I aspired to or had something that I wanted that I didn't have. And there was definitely a jealousy element that was entrenched in it.
I think an interesting element that a lot of us would, if we were being really honest, have to put our hands up, myself included, saying that we've experienced is the Schadenfreude. That's that German word that means taking pleasure in someone else's misfortune. And it's kind of getting joy from watching the train wreck, right? I think in my own life, the only time I've really experienced this is when someone who I don't think is worthy of the success that they have, or potentially who is completely unaware of their privilege, when they have a bit of a downfall, there's a bit of me that's like, yeah, you should have seen that coming.
See, I find that interesting because I think, I hate the word because I can't say it, Schadenfreude, is that it?
I think so.
So I feel like that kind of links more into cancel culture. And I don't only think this because my experience of hate following has never been when it has been linked to the demise of someone. And I think when I've looked at people's content that I've felt that sort of like, I don't like them, but I'm going to check in anyway. It's always been people who are still very successful and they're on the upward trajectory of their success. And I can't rationalize or I feel like they're undeserving of that success. When I think people have come, in the instances where watching someone have a downfall, I feel as though I'm less inclined to check in on that, not because of the train wreck situation, but because the jealousy element's no longer there.
Yeah, but I think specifically, I've worked in media for nearly a decade now. There are certain people that I have, met along the way, or I have heard of experiences of, friends and colleagues that have worked amongst certain people. It's taken some time. There was a very public situation 2 weeks ago where an Australian radio personality was kind of had this fall from grace. And there is a part of me that took pleasure in that because I was like, you weren't worthy of that position. And I did get a bit of joy after kind of feeling as though everyone else finally got to see what we had seen, So I think that
like
could
justification.
Be almost like an element of, there's validation now for the fact that I never liked this person and now I'm seeing them being taken down. I don't feel that way about Meghan. I feel very indifferent about her if I'm completely honest, but I think that there would be people, especially if you are like a bit of a royalist, that would experience Schadenfreude by seeing the way that this Netflix series has kind of been so heavily criticised.
People just want to be able to be involved in the cultural chat, like the water cooler chat. So we'll use maths as an example. I've said 100 times I can't stand it. I cannot stand watching maths. I've never really watched it until like a couple of episodes this season. It's a train wreck. People watch it because it's a train wreck. People watch it because it's starting conversation, but then people want to be able to be in those conversations. So there are so many people I know that hate watching maths that will continue to watch it. They don't believe in anything about it, but they'll watch it so that they can contribute to the water cooler chat. They can talk about it.
Left out. There's no FOMO.
Yeah, they can talk about it in the group chats, and I think that's what happens with a lot of people on social media or people that we look up to that we think are famous. Meghan Markle. We want to be able to have these conversations with people so people continue to hate follow.
Yeah, and I feel like with anything, there is a scale, right? Like it's a spectrum. You could be weirdly obsessed with someone. You could be a troll. I don't think any of our listeners are, but you could be someone who is like weirdly obsessed, watches all of the content that someone creates but feels very deeply negative about it. And I say this because I have experienced this even recently. I've had this woman who just like writes fucking awful comments on every single platform, and then she's been blocked on everything, but I forgot to block her on Tony May because why would she have any reason to go after that account? And then one day she just popped up, started writing awful things on Tony May. And I was like, why do I take up so much real estate in your brain? Yeah. You clearly hate me. You clearly don't like me. I don't know what I've done, but something I've done or I've said or my just existence upsets you for whatever reason. And I think it's like, in that sort of situation, I'm like, oh, that's a really sad for her. It's sad for her that it makes her so mad to know that I exist in the world and I'm happy. But on the flip side of this, sometimes we do it for multiple reasons, right? We might do it for we talked about comparison, this sense of watching maths, this sense of like superiority in our own selves. Fuck, my relationship's not that level of a train wreck. And it's quite interesting to watch other people fumble around in life. And, it is in some ways entertaining, hence why maths is the biggest rating show on free-to-air TV. But the flip side of that is, and I would dare say it, 90% of us would be guilty of sending a slightly bitchy post, right, in a group text
no
or
idea
something.
What you're talking about.
Maybe you've seen a piece of content that you thought was utterly cringeworthy, and you've copied the URL and you've sent it in a group text because having a common hatred about something is quite connecting. Having something to bitch about or to gossip about, it's not a great thing to connect over, but it's definitely something that creates this sense of we feel the same. We have this unity because we dislike this thing. I think we would be so hard pressed to find a group chat that has never, or a group of friends that has never, ever, ever shared one negative thing about another person and collectively they've all agreed, or collectively they've had a discussion about what that is or how they all feel about that influencer or that celebrity. Yeah,
and I think it's though.
No, but we all do it to different extents.
No, no one would have shared content about us is what I'm saying.
You know what happened to
I would
Matt?
hate to see those group chats.
So
that would be
happened-
really triggering.
It happened to Matt recently, and this was like his friends. So one of his friends, she copied like one of Matt's posts, and obviously Matt makes loads of different types of content. Some of it's super funny. Sometimes things don't land, right? Like sometimes things might be a bit more cringe than other things.
yeah, sure, whatever.
But it's social media. You just pump out content.
Well, sometimes something's going to fit one group of people or someone else and not someone else. Like that's the way content works.
Totally. And this quote unquote friend had meant to send the link or the URL to someone else who they were friends with. But they sent it to Matt with the message of like, can you believe he's making this content? How embarrassing for him. And I was like, you're meant to be his friend and you're hate following.
What
the type
did Matt
of
say?
He just wrote, guess this wasn't for me. Hey, hope you're well.
Oh,
They haven't spoken in years now. It happened 2 years ago.
oh
It's
that's
definitely-
a great response from him.
I guess the thing is like, it's an interesting conversation because I do think that we're all guilty of it to different layers and to different levels. It definitely hits different when it comes from within your own friendship group, but it can be people who you have close contact with, or it can be people who you have this like parasocial relationship with because of, you know, being celebrities in social media.
Well, the interesting thing off the back of that, Laura, is that we often think that hate following somebody does one thing to them when it does another. And what I mean by that is like, if you don't like someone, you're contributing to the conversation and you are going against them, all you're doing is contributing to an outrage culture. You're contributing to engagement, which grows a platform. So we've spoken about it before, but like, even though this girl copied his URL and forwarded on to himself, he still got engagement. It still forwarded his post.
Totally.
Like it still grew his post. Someone else has
Thank you
had
for
the-
watching. Please like, share, and swipe up.
But it's true. And it comes back to this like the age old quote about PR, like any publicity is good publicity. It doesn't matter if it's bad or not. And it is true in social media right now. If you are contributing to someone's page, even though you don't like them, if you're following them and you're commenting against what they say or you're arguing with them or whatever it is, it's growing their platform. That is how today's day and age operates. We grow off outrage culture. We grow off engagement, shares, likes, comments. It's the way social media works.
I've said this before. When I found this out, I found it such an interesting fact around the way that social media works. I mean, the team at Facebook and Meta are very, very smart, and they have done a lot of research in what keeps you on their platform for the longest. And they know that if you are angry about something, if the feeling or the emotion that's been incited in you is anger, you will spend up to 2 times longer on the platform than you would if the feeling that's been incited in you is happiness or joy or peaceful or looking at puppies or baby goats or whatever. You will spend 2 times longer.
Yeah.
Outrage culture is a vehicle and a mechanism that works for engagement, and they will always, Meta will always prioritize outrage culture over things that make people feel good because it gets the deepest level of engagement. And I think really smart, quite controversial influencers and political leaders who have social media presences, even some news publications, have created their social media in a way that demands you to follow it in order to engage with it. So there's a setting on social media where unless you're a follower, you don't have the privilege to comment on that page. And I think in those instances, it really then divides your audience because a lot of people are following because, yes, they want to comment positively, but other people are following because they want to be part of the conversation, but they want to be able to comment their negative thoughts as part of the conversation. But at the end of the day, you're right, Britt, all that's doing is growing a platform and growing the engagement of that person. So if you truly hate someone, if you deeply fucking hate someone, stop engaging with their content. Engage in discussions, but don't engage with them directly because you're actually just helping them grow and you're helping them be successful.
The one thing that I am trying to look internally as well as externally, and I would be very interested by, obviously the majority of our audience are women. Do you hate follow any men? Because I'm trying to think myself, the only time I've ever engaged in the whole screenshot, send it to the group chat and have a bit of a bitch about it, I don't think there's one time that it's been a guy. Like it's always been a woman and the content that we have spoken about. And there is an element of social network and do we agree with this or don't we agree with this? And we want to discuss it a little bit deeper. And that I actually think is quite a good thing to have healthy discussion around. But the thing that I thought was particularly interesting about this Meghan and hate watching it is that Harry had his Polo doco come out last December. It was a part of that $100 million Netflix deal. He had to create something as well. It was criticised, but I could not tell you one headline that I read about it. It also has a terrible rating. I think it's got a 30% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So people were basically like, this is a terrible docuseries. But we were not getting even 1% of the headlines as what we've got about Meghan. I think it's quite gendered. I think this hate watching, hate following is gendered.
I totally agree. The only thing I would say in that example, though, is that his book Spare copped deep backlash. Like it was
But it was one of the best-selling books ever.
Yes, but it was absolutely ripped to shreds by critics and also by people wanting to hate, despite the fact that it was a best-selling book. I agree with you. I think that we all struggle with it to different levels. We all have deep internalized misogyny. You've got to be pretty elevated to get to a point where you're like, I don't have that and I am completely free of the structures of which I've been raised in. But as women, there is a big competition element between us and there's a big comparison element. And unfortunately with social media, that has only grown. I don't think that has been something that we have overcome.
Yeah, I got to go hate follow and bitch about some more men.
Yeah, let's all go hate follow
Even
man.
the score.
Guys, I have a bit of my own accidentally unfiltered this week. And it happened last Friday. Britt and I was Britt's +1 to the Marie Claire International Women's Day lunch, right? And
Very classy, very lovely, amazing speakers, like a beautiful lunch.
I don't think Britt will be taking me back as a +1 after I tell you this situation. So for each of the lunch settings, kind of similar to a wedding, you know when you sit down and there's a bit of a gift box for you on each dinner plate?
Like a gift bag.
Yeah.
Party bag.
Well, it was a box.
Usually mine are filled with Milky Ways and Mars bars.
Well, it was because Marie Claire, in conjunction with Pandora, put on this lunch for the speakers. So that's what this lunch was.
So
Fancy.
we're kind of into the first speech and I'm looking over at Britt and I'm like, can I open my present? Like I was anticipating what it would be, right?
Had
And so
anyone else opened their present at this point?
one girl across from me, it was Jess Rose's daughter.
Okay, right.
She was a
excited.
teenager.
She's also, I think she's 14.
I was like, if she can get away with it, maybe I can too. So I had opened the box and there were quite a few different layers to it. So there was like the fold up top cardboard piece and then there was some tissue paper and then there was another cardboard box and that slid out and then in that was some more tissue paper and the gift.
Lots of packaging.
Many layers.
Just a lot of tissue paper.
Yeah, lots going on, right? Probably half an hour goes by and I've looked at my gift and I was like, oh yeah, exciting. And someone's speaking on stage and lunch gets put in front of us. And I had some chewing gum in my mouth. So I was like, oh gosh, where can I put this chewing gum? And I was like, do I just swallow it? That's a bit gross. The napkins that we were given were those beautiful material ones. So I was like, well, can't put it in there. And then I remembered there's some tissue paper in my gift. There's so much tissue paper. I don't need all that tissue paper. I can just sneak some of my gum into the tissue paper that's in the box. So that's what I did.
So you put your gum in the box.
Next to the piece of jewelry, there's like a piece of jewelry.
In
and
the
then,
tissue paper.
And then she wrapped the gum up in the tissue paper on top of the jewelry.
And left it in the box.
In my box.
It's her box, so it's okay. She just had nowhere to put it.
It was coming home with me.
Okay.
So the rest of the
I
lunch
hate chewing gum,
happens-
so to me that's a weird shout.
Well, you would have really hated this
Put
one.
that in the bin.
Because there wasn't a bin and I didn't want to get up and interrupt the speaker just because I had chewing gum, right?
I was next to her. I watched it. It was fine. It was like a bit of tissue paper in her box. It was like, okay.
Yeah, I was trying to be subtle. So the lunch wraps up a couple of hours later and we are off getting some photos with some of our friends and, you know, we'd put our bags down to get the photos. And that was when I realized that I went back and where I thought I had put my box down, there were like 5 or 6 other people's boxes there because they were also doing the same thing of going and getting photos. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, do I just abandon the gift? But then if I abandon the gift, someone else is going to take it home thinking that it's their gift. And then they're going to be like, what animal put chewing gum in my gift, like in my present? I didn't know if everyone else had opened theirs, so I didn't know if they would know that it wasn't theirs and wondered where the chewing gum had come from. So I was like, on my days.
You open every box.
I tried to, and I was trying to do it really subtly, but then I realized that I
It
looked
looked like
like
she
I
was
was trying
going
to compare the presents and take
No,
the
it doesn't
best.
matter. You just say, I'm so sorry. I put my chewing gum in my
It
box.
looks like she was going around trying to be like, who got it? Because they were all
scurrying
different.
through.
gifts.
No, you just tell anyone who sees I'm looking for my chewing gum.
Well, that is what happened because there were 2 women and they were kind of looking at me a bit like, what are you doing? And
Like,
I was
okay,
like, I'm
scab.
so sorry. I put my chewing gum in one of these boxes and I don't know which one. And now I do not know what to do about it. And they lost it laughing. Turns out that they worked for Marie Claire. And thank you for being so kind because you made me feel like I wasn't an animal that I actually was. I couldn't retrieve I went through three
You
of
never
them.
found
I
it.
didn't find the
Someone
chewing
took it home and opened the box that they think is from Pandora and Marie Claire and found chewing gum in there.
My chewed chewing gum. I am disgusting. I was like, I scurried over to Britt and I was like, we need to leave immediately.
She told
you
me
will
and I was
never
like-
invite me to one of these events again.
I was like, get out now. Get out now before someone sees.
You guys know, I mean, I've spoken about it deeply. I have like an actual phobia against chewing gum. Like Keeshia can't get in my car if she's chewing gum.
Keisha's also obsessed with chewing gum.
Yeah, and it
I
makes
like fresh breath. Sorry.
No, it's not that. The smell of it to me makes me feel sick. The smell of chewing gum on someone's breath is not fresh breath to me. It's just like weirdly warm, minty smell that takes over my car.
Imagine-
I can't. The thought of it makes
Imagine
me.
if you had gotten home and thought you had a nice little gift.
It's making me want to cry.
Imagine you pull out the jewelry box and you're like, what's it going to be in there? And you open the tissue paper and there's chewing gum.
Every so often I get into my car and Matt will have had a coffee and he would have stuck his chewing gum on top of the coffee lid.
do that.
And it is I have to remind myself how much I love that man because in those moments I'm like, I could be single.
It could be worse
Single
if that's all he's
parenting
doing.
might be easier. Keisha, you're disgusting.
And I'm never taking you anywhere again. You're out.
I'm out.
Well, look, guys, if you have an accidentally unfiltered, send them on in. We want your accidentally unfiltered. Send your embarrassing stories to us at Life Uncut Podcast so that we can share them next week. We have a few good ones, actually, but we'll just save them now.
We will because
Keisha, yours
Keisha's was too
went.
gross.
Sorry.
Hey, it's time for Suck and Sweet. Should I kick this off? My suck this week is I need a new +1. No, I'm joking. my suck this week is because I did the Dancing with the Stars and I've told you I haven't been able to get my migraine Botox for months and it's getting really bad. So my suck is that like I'm well overdue. I definitely wouldn't have been able to hold my neck up and dance if I got it. And that was a sacrifice that I made. But I'm going again next week. But like I went to bed last night, vomited, my migraine. It was the
Oh
first
my God, that's awful.
first migraine I've had in months. I've been getting really bad headaches, but I feel like they've been like escalating. So the first one last night, but my Botox is booked for next week. So that's amazing. And my sweet is yesterday I got approved to go and see Ben. So I'm going to Italy. It will have been, I think, about 3.5 months. I think it's about 14 weeks since I would have seen him.
For context, when people say approved, so because we do radio.
Laura approved me.
No, because we do radio, we have to be here for records, for
Yeah.
radios, for the show. And so it's a really big deal for
get approved.
the radio network to say yes to remote recordings. It's almost been like, since day one, they've been like, never will you do a remote recording. Even though we can do remote podcast recording, we've got a proven track record. It's very feasible. Radio is just a different kettle of fish.
It's been an
where
uphill battle.
We have bosses, which is weird for us, you know, because usually we just like, woo, whatever, we're in Bali. No, that's a complete lie.
No,
That's
but
happened
it's-
like 5 times in 5 years.
Yeah, ever. For the podcast, it is so, I mean, we know this is our bread and butter. We know this inside out. We know we can do audio anywhere in the world, but radio, whilst they know that you can do it because people do it. So like loads of radio hosts record overseas. They've just been cautious with us doing it. And I don't know why, but I did go up yesterday and it kindly explained that my life is deteriorating at a rapid pace.
You're like, I will quit unless you let me go.
Pretty much. I'm like, guys, so it's been like, I haven't seen him since Christmas time, since that holiday. So we have a 1-week break, which I have gone over many times for the week, but when it's 2 days worth of traveling, by the time you
Yeah.
get there, you got 5 days and you're jet lagged. And so I just went up and said, hey, can I do an extra week? It's a couple of recordings overseas. It'll be great audio. It's exactly the same. And they said yes. So it's just, so we've got a week over there, which is amazing. Yeah. So I'm just going to go over. I'm going to have a lot of sex, eat a lot of pasta. Sherry, Jane, Maya are going to come for a couple of days. I get to watch Ben and his new team for just one game. So I'm really excited. And that is happening in 4 weeks.
Oh my God, that's so
I
amazing. That's the best suite ever. I know that this has been something that you've been like worried about the response. So I'm glad it was good. To be fair, and I know I'm breaking the rules, I don't really have a suck this week. And I'm not going to lean into the nothingness because my
Great.
week's been pretty damn good.
Oh, must be nice.
It must be very nice. My sweet though for the week, there's been a couple, but like the real highlight was on the weekend just past, my beautiful girlfriend Farah had her baby shower, and Farah was my minder on The Bachelor, which probably sounds really weird to anyone, but basically when you're a contestant on The Bachelor, you get given a minder who takes care of you, who makes sure that you don't run away, that you eat food, that you order from Coles, that you take care of yourself. You don't drink too much.
They're almost like your buffer as well. They're your communication to like anyone outside of the mansion. So the big producers or anyone, like if you have a problem, you can go to them and then they'll report back.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have they're on 3 days each. Basically, you have 2 minders that live in the house with you. They're with you all the time.
They have a bedroom.
And they have a bedroom. Well, for us, it was upstairs. So she's kind of like mum of the house. And we've stayed really, really good friends. And I had Farah and Jazzy. Farah was the mum and Jazzy was the dad, is how we'd always refer to them. And on the weekend, it was Farah's baby shower. And yeah, she's had a really long journey to becoming a mum. And so seeing her at, almost 34 weeks pregnant and getting to a place where she feels like she's allowing herself to believe that it's going to happen was just such a beautiful thing to be part of. I'm so happy for her. Honestly, she's going to be the most incredible mum. And yeah, it was just really special. It was really I feel so grateful for her that she's at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice because from what you have told us, it has been a very long and hard journey.
Yeah.
So
and
it's
she's
nice.
just the most amazing person. She's the sweetest, sweetest girl. And so yeah, very giving to other people. And it's just it's her time to experience this.
She's one of my favorites of your friends.
What?
Yeah.
She's just
Excuse
the
me?
best.
You're all right, Britt.
I snort too much. All right, let's get out of here. Please keep your Accidentally Unfiltered coming in. Ask Uncards. You can send them all into our Instagram. Just put a little title at the top saying Ask Uncut or Accidentally Unfiltered so we know where to put them. If you haven't subscribed or watched our YouTube, you are absolutely missing out. It's such a vibe and it's so much fun. And it just gives a different context when you can actually watch how this goes down instead of just listening to it.
Yeah.
I actually love it.
Absolutely. I feel like it's, it's a very fun, different way to watch the pod. But yeah, if you've enjoyed the episode, share it with a friend. You guys know the drill.
Tell your mum, tell your dad, tell your dog, tell your friends and share the love because
We love love.